Is this the start of a global economic realignment that may put America behind? What happens if the world's greatest economy loses its primary trading partner in three important industries: agriculture, technology, and energy? Right now, China is reducing imports from the United States, causing a ripple effect that might drive the American economy to its knees. From Iowa fields to Silicon Valley tech clusters, we are all affected by this problem. Why is this happening? And can America withstand this seismic shift? The United States and China account for more than 40% of global GDP, making their trade relationship among the most important in the world. In 2022, bilateral commerce between the two countries will reach $690 billion, with China serving as a major consumer of American agricultural commodities, semiconductors, and energy resources. But here's the existential issue. China's purchases of U.S. goods have progressively declined since 2018. According to the United States Census Bureau, Chinese imports of U.S. goods fell by 17% in 2023 compared to pre-trade war levels. This is terrible for industries such as agriculture, where China formerly purchased over 60% of America's soybean exports. Dr. Chad Bone, a senior scholar at the Peterson Institute for International Economics, cautions that this is more than simply trade data. It's about how intricately linked industries are. The loss of China as a buyer has far-reaching consequences for supply chains, jobs, and innovation. This economic collapse may be traced back to the 2018 trade war between the United States and China. The Trump administration put duties on $360 billion in Chinese imports, and Beijing responded with taxes on $110 billion in U.S. exports. Agriculture, technology, and energy were among the most severely affected industries. According to a National Bureau of Economic Research, U.S. exports to China dropped by over 20% at the height of the trade war. Beijing did not merely retaliate, it reorganized. The Chinese government began diversifying its supply chains, relying on Brazil for soybeans, Europe for technical ties, and Russia for energy. In an op-ed for the Financial Times, economist Yu Yongding argued that the trade war has hastened China's desire for self-sufficiency. This was not a transitory answer. This is a long-term approach. Please like and subscribe. Share your opinions in the comments. Your contribution allows us to grow. Thank you. Tariffs were designed to put pressure on China to acquire more American products. Instead, they increased the cost of American products and reduced their worldwide competitiveness. For example, soybeans, one of the main U.S. exports to China, witnessed a price reduction of more than 18% in 2018 as Chinese purchasers shifted to Brazil. According to the American Farm Bureau, between 2018 and 2020, tariffs cost U.S. farmers an estimated $14 billion in export earnings. Tariffs served as a tax on U.S. firms and consumers, according to Mary Lovely, a trade economist at Syracuse University. Instead of stimulating trade, they disrupted supply lines, forcing China to seek alternatives. So, which industries have been impacted the hardest? Let us break it down. Agriculture has been the most damaged industry during current economic slump, owing to its reliance on China as a primary client. In 2022, China spent more than $35 billion on agricultural goods from the United States, a decrease from $45 billion in 2017. Soybeans, maize, and pork were among the most heavily impacted commodities. For farmers in the Midwest, the downturn has been disastrous. According to the American Farm Bureau Federation, farm bankruptcies in areas such as Iowa and Nebraska surged by 23% at the height of the trade war. Many family-owned farms, which already had low profit margins, were forced to close. John Heisdorfer, an Iowa soybean farmer and past president of the American Soybean Association, called the situation catastrophic. Losing China as a customer is more than a loss of income. It is also a loss of stability. It's difficult to prepare for the future when your biggest customer goes. Brazil jumped into the void created by American farmers with surgical precision. In 2022, Brazil shipped a record 87.6 million metric tons of soybeans to China, accounting for more than half of the market. This domination was not accidental. Brazil benefits from cheaper production costs, preferential trade agreements, and a currency advantage. Furthermore, China has made significant investments in Brazilian infrastructure, such as trains and ports, to improve agricultural product transportation. Brazil supplies the raw ingredients, while China provides the finance to transport them. The economic impact of diminished agricultural exports extends well beyond the farms. Agriculture's prosperity impacts whole rural communities, from equipment makers to logistics firms. When farmers lose revenue, so do the companies that support them. According to University of Illinois research, every dollar lost in farm revenue reduces local economic activity by $2.87. For rural communities in the Midwest, this means fewer employment, school closures, and falling populations. Megan Nelson, an economist with the American Farm Bureau Federation, has cautioned that this is a death cycle for certain towns. Without a strong farming industry, rural America's social fabric is jeopardized. This trade war has had a significant impact on the semiconductor sector. Semiconductors, sometimes known as the new oil, serve as the cornerstone for modern technology, ranging from cell phones to artificial intelligence. The semiconductor business has traditionally been driven by the United States, with companies like Intel, NVIDIA, and Qualcomm pushing innovation. However, China is vigorously striving to bridge this gap, and its shift away from semiconductor imports from the United States represents a significant escalation in the technical Cold War. According to the Semiconductor Industry Association, semiconductor shipments from the United States to China would fall 14% in 2023. This decrease isn't just economic, it is strategic. Beijing's Made in China 2025 project intends to produce 70% of chips domestically by 2025. To do this, China has invested billions of dollars in R&D and manufacturing capacity. China sees its reliance on foreign chips as a risk, according to Dan Wang, a technology expert at Gavacal Research. They view chip manufacture as an issue of national security, which explains the urgency and magnitude of their spending. This move has far-reaching repercussions for the global technology environment. As China expands its semiconductor output, it reduces demand for U.S.-made chips, introducing new levels of competition to an already high-risk industry. The capacity of American technology businesses to innovate and adapt in the face of China's push for self-sufficiency is critical to their existence. Companies including Qualcomm, Micron, and Broadcom have already announced revenue losses owing to lower Chinese demand. Qualcomm, for example, saw its China sales decline by more than 15% in 2023. Furthermore, U.S. export curbs on sophisticated semiconductor technology intended to slow China's advancement have had mixed results. While they limit China's access to cutting-edge technology, they also encourage Beijing to focus on homegrown innovation. Scott Kennedy, a senior advisor at the Center for Strategic and International Studies, described export limitations as a double-edged sword. They may provide U.S. corporations a temporary edge, but they also compel China to hasten its technical independence. To remain competitive, U.S. companies are pressing for federal assistance. The CHIPS Act, enacted into law in 2022, set aside $52 billion to support domestic semiconductor production. While this is a step forward, experts caution that the United States must retain its lead in innovation to remain competitive. Energy is another crucial sector in which China has lessened its reliance on the United States. In 2021, the United States was the top supplier of liquefied natural gas to China. According to the United States Energy Information Administration, These exports will have decreased by 25% by 2023. This transition is driven by both geopolitical and economic factors. Following the Russia-Ukraine war, China strengthened its energy connections with Russia by negotiating a 30-year agreement for natural gas imports through the Power of Siberia pipeline. Furthermore, China has negotiated long-term LNG agreements with Qatar, including a $60 billion contract agreed in early 2024. According to Mikhail Maiden, head of the Oxford Institute for Energy Studies China Energy Program, China is actively diversifying its energy suppliers in order to lessen geopolitical risk. They seek to maintain a steady supply chain while avoiding over-reliance on any single country. For U.S. energy corporations, the drop in Chinese demand is a big loss. The EIA estimated a 22% decline in LNG export income in 2023, with ramifications for the larger energy industry. Well, China's diversification plan is fundamentally changing global trade dynamics. By lessening its reliance on the United States, Beijing is strengthening connections with developing markets and regional partners. For example, China's trade with Brazil will exceed $150 billion in 2023, making Brazil its largest trading partner in South America. The Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership, or RCE, a trade pact including China and 14 other nations, has also altered the global trading scene. According to the World Trade Organization, RCEP states already account for 30% of global GDP, with intra-Asian trade expected to increase by 8% in 2023. Jennifer Hillman, a senior scholar at the Council on Foreign Relations, has warned that if the United States does not adapt, it would be left behind in global commerce. China is establishing itself as the epicenter of a new trading regime. This shift has important ramifications for the United States, which must seek new markets and establish alliances to remain competitive. China's reduced reliance on U.S. commodities is part of a larger economic strategy for self-sufficiency and global leadership. President Xi Jinping's twin circulation policy focuses on local consumption while increasing China's influence in global markets. This strategy is mirrored in programs such as the Belt and Road Initiative, which has invested billions in infrastructure projects throughout Asia, Africa, and Europe. China is building a worldwide economic network by boosting trade links with poorer countries, reducing its reliance on Western economies. China is not just reacting to trade concerns, according to Eswar Prasad, a Cornell University professor of international trade policy. It is deliberately altering the global economic system to better accord with its long-term goals. American companies are scrambling to adjust to the new trade reality. Farmers are looking for new markets in Southeast Asia and Europe. However, these locations cannot fully meet China's needs. For example, while soybean exports to Vietnam and Thailand have surged, they still represent less than half of the volume formerly shipped to China. Technology businesses are pressing for federal assistance to mitigate losses. The CHIPS Act is an important beginning, but experts warn that re-establishing domestic semiconductor production would take years. Meanwhile, energy corporations are looking into cooperation opportunities in India and Japan, despite the fact that these markets frequently demand lower pricing, reducing profit margins. McKinsey's 2023 study underscored the enormity of the situation. It may take a decade for U.S. firms to reconstruct supply systems and find new clients. The question is whether they can stay competitive during the shift. The United States will confront a difficult transition to a world in which China is no longer its main trading partner. Innovation, smart investment, and diversity will be critical. For example, the United States is investing in renewable energy technology to lessen dependency on uncertain global markets, while agricultural exporters are looking into collaborations with Middle Eastern and African countries. However, adaptation involves more than simply legislative changes. It necessitates a coordinated plan. Adam Posen, head of the Peterson Institute for International Economics, has cautioned that the economic decoupling between the United States and China is more than simply a bilateral issue. It is a trigger for global realignment. Emerging economies like India, Indonesia, and Nigeria are set to become new centers of economic activity, and American exporters must seize these possibilities to remain competitive. This realignment is both a difficulty and an opportunity. As global trade patterns alter, the United States has an opportunity to rethink its position in the world economy. But it will need strong action, clever relationships, and a willingness to accept change. Is this the start of a multipolar trading world, or will the United States regain its dominance? The following steps might alter everything. The U.S. economy is approaching a tipping point. From struggling farmers in rural America to IT innovators vying for global market share and energy providers looking for new partners, the consequences of China's reduced imports are apparent. These changes are more than simply numbers on a balance sheet. They are transforming millions of people's lives and redefining America's role in the global economy. However, this is not the end of the narrative. How the United States responds to this seismic upheaval will determine its future economic power. Will American companies rise to the challenge, or will this be the start of a long-term decline? Share your opinions in the comments. We're delighted you appreciate the video. Please like and subscribe. Check out the video that is currently on your screen.